In an exclusive, never-before-seen moment captured during the production of Love is Blind Season 6, Andy, one of the season's most polarizing and introspective figures, delivered a raw, emotionally charged declaration that stunned both castmates Quad and Sweet Tea, and left producers momentarily speechless. Though the scene was ultimately cut from the final edit of the reunion special, sources close to the production confirmed the exchange was one of the most intense and revealing moments of the entire season. For viewers who followed Season 6, Andy's journey was a study in contradictions. On one hand, he presented as deeply intellectual, emotionally articulate, and committed to authenticity in relationships. On the other, his actions, particularly his decision to end his engagement with Alexa after their wedding day, sparked widespread debate. While the show painted him as a man paralyzed by fear and indecision, this unreleased reunion moment reveals a far more complex narrative. One in which Andy confronts his critics not with defensiveness, but with clarity, conviction, and a surprising sense of peace. The moment occurred during a post-interview break, after the main reunion taping had concluded. Cameras had rolled off, and the crew assumed the formalities were over. But as cast members lingered in the studio, still wired from the emotional weight of the taping, Andy stood up, not to leave, but to speak. He looked directly at Quad and Sweet Tea, two of the season's most outspoken figures, both of whom had publicly questioned Andy's motives and maturity during the reunion. "I've been thinking a lot about what you both said today," Andy began, his voice steady but thick with emotion. "And I want to say something, not to defend myself, not to win anyone over, but because I owe it to myself to be honest, even when it's hard." The room quieted instantly. Quad, known for his blunt honesty, leaned forward in his chair. Sweet Tea, usually quick with a joke or a sarcastic quip, fell silent, sensing the gravity of the moment. Andy continued, "I know how I come across. I know I seem like the guy who overthinks everything, who can't make a decision, who runs from love. And maybe, in some ways, that's true. But what I need all of you, to understand is that I didn't walk away from Alexa because I didn't love her. I walked away because I did." A beat of silence followed. Quad raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Sweet Tea crossed his arms, listening intently. "I loved her enough," Andy said, voice cracking slightly, "to not trap her in a marriage with someone who wasn't sure. I loved her enough to say no when every part of me wanted to say yes. And yeah, that makes me a coward in some people's eyes. But I'd rather be a coward who told the truth than a liar who said I do and spent the next 40 years resenting her, or worse, her resenting me." Sweet Tea exhaled slowly. "Damn," he muttered, almost to himself. Andy turned his gaze to Quad. "You said I wasn't ready. And you're right. I wasn't. But not because I don't believe in love, or marriage, or commitment. I'm not ready because I've spent my whole life trying to be the person everyone else wants me to be, the smart one, the stable one, the one who has it all figured out. And when I got into that pod with Alexa, for the first time I felt seen. Not for my resume, not for my opinions, not for how I present myself, but for me. And that scared the hell out of me." Quad nodded slowly. "I can respect that," he said. "But why not work through it? Why not try?" "Because love isn't just about feeling, Quad," Andy replied. "It's about action. It's about showing up every day, even when it's hard. And I wasn't sure I could do that. Not fairly. Not without dragging her into my uncertainty. And that wouldn't be love, that would be selfishness disguised as hope." Sweet Tea, who had remained quiet, finally spoke. "I called you a coward on the show. I said you didn't have the guts to go through with it. But hearing you say this, I gotta admit, maybe it took more guts to walk away." Andy smiled faintly. "I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect anyone to understand. But I needed to say this, not for the cameras, not for the fans, but for me. Because for months, I've carried this weight, this guilt, this shame. And I realized something, I don't have to carry it alone. And I don't have to carry it forever." The moment hung in the air, heavy, honest, and unscripted. There were no cuts, no retakes, no producer prompts. Just a man, standing in front of his peers, finally speaking his truth. What made this moment so powerful wasn't just Andy's words, it was the vulnerability behind them. In a reality TV landscape often criticized for manipulation, editing, and manufactured drama, this was real. Unfiltered. Human. Sources say the decision to cut the scene was purely logistical, the reunion was already running long, and producers felt the moment, while powerful, might overshadow other storylines. But behind the scenes, crew members described it as one of the most authentic moments they'd ever witnessed on the show. For Quad and Sweet Tea, the impact was immediate. Quad later admitted in a private conversation with a producer that Andy's words made him re-evaluate his own approach to relationships. "I always thought strength was about pushing forward, no matter what," Quad said. "But maybe strength is also knowing when to stop. When to say, I can't do this right now. That takes a different kind of courage." Sweet Tea, meanwhile, reportedly reached out to Andy weeks after filming Wrapped. "I owed him an apology," Sweet Tea said in a recent podcast appearance, though he didn't name names. "I judged him based on what I would have done, not what he was feeling. And that wasn't fair." Andy, for his part, has remained largely out of the public eye since the season aired. He's deleted his social media accounts, declined most media interviews, and focused on therapy and personal growth. But in a rare email exchange with a close friend, he wrote, "That moment in the studio. Saying what I said to Quad and Sweet Tea was the first time I felt free. Not because they forgave me, but because I forgave myself." The full weight of Andy's declaration lies not in its dramatic delivery, but in its quiet defiance of reality TV tropes. He didn't blame Alexa. He didn't attack the show. He didn't seek sympathy. Instead, he took full ownership of his fears, his flaws, and his choices. And in doing so, he challenged the very narrative the show had built around him. Throughout Love is Blind, the central question has always been, can love truly be blind? But Andy's unreleased moment forces us to ask a different question, one just as important: can we be honest with ourselves, even when the truth hurts? Because the truth is, Andy didn't fail. At least, not in the way the internet declared. He didn't fail Alexa. He didn't fail love. He failed the expectation. The idea that love is a finish line, that marriage is the only measure of success, that walking away is always weakness. But what if walking away is sometimes the bravest thing you can do? What if love isn't about staying at all costs, but about having the courage to know when staying would cost too much? Andy's declaration wasn't a plea for redemption. It was a quiet revolution, a rejection of the pressure to perform, to conform, to pretend. It was a reminder that growth isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's a single moment, off camera, when a man finally looks in the mirror and says, "I'm not okay, but I'm trying." And maybe that's enough. In the days following the reunion taping, cast members reportedly discussed the moment in hushed tones. Some said they were moved. Others admitted they hadn't fully understood Andy's perspective until then. One cast member, who asked to remain anonymous, said, "It made me think about my own relationships. Have I ever walked away from something because it was the right thing to do, not the easy thing? Or have I just stayed because I was afraid of being alone? That, perhaps,